Welcome to MomFit with Joe Peters. This is the Spanglish World Network and the Her Network on the Single TV channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download the Single TV app in the respective app stores, iOS and Android devices. While you are downloading, make sure to rate the app and leave a comment. The app is free. Single TV can be accessed through Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV, Roku, and Roku Stick in all the smart TVs from since 2016. Welcome to MomFit. Today, I am really excited to talk with Laurie because this is a topic that was very close to my heart. Laurie is been utilizing 2 decades of expertise in digital strategy, content creation, and social media. And she builds sustainable and measurement programs for nonprofits, independent schools, and small businesses. She's a result driven and creative thinker, skilled at building and innovating on ideas, programs, teams, and is passionate about driving measurable results through key marketing approaches to build awareness and brand loyalty. Laurie holds an MBA from First Gabelli School of Business in New York City and a bachelor's in the University of Maryland, College Park. She's been very involved in her local community, volunteering with PTA, chairing in Washington, D.C., Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. Laurie has two boys, aged 9 to 6, and has spent her free time at basketball, soccer, hockey, and baseball games. And I'm super excited to talk with Laurie because we are going to be talking about movement and exercise as a mom to be and as a new mom. And I'm really excited to discuss this with her because that was one of the things that I was very afraid when I was pregnant because everything that I saw in social media was moms with big bellies in the couch saying that they didn't want to move, or moms with newborns just not moving at all. And my experience was that we will talk with Laurie. I actually was able to exercise and move up to the day before I enter labor. So I'm super excited to talk with her. Laurie, thank you so much for being here. Why we don't just start a little bit with your story and why you start getting passionate about this topic of exercise as a mom, and we will go from there.
Sure. Thank you so much, Joe, for having me. I'm very excited to be here. So fitness has been a part of my life since after college. And of course, when you're single, you're working, you're, living in a big city, it can be a very easy and seamless part of your life. But, once you are making evolutions in your life, starting a family, you have to figure out how to make it work, in the grand scheme of maintaining a household and having a spouse and and of course introducing children into your family. So when I became pregnant with my first child, this was 10 years ago already. I remember the first question that I asked my doctor was, can I continue to exercise? And what she said was, absolutely. She's like, whatever you've been doing before, as you progress in your pregnancy, you're going to have to, slow down, make some modifications, keep track of your heart rate, listen to your body and don't overextend yourself because you're also, you're growing a human. But that was definitely something that stuck in my mind. If I wasn't running marathons before, so I certainly wasn't going to run them, when I was pregnant, but cycling and spinning was a really big part of my life. And with my first pregnancy, I was able to be on the bike until 34 weeks. And then, my belly was just bigger and, I was just having trouble keeping up in some classes. So, I scaled back from there and, really worked out all the way up until my due date. So it was sort of the same with my second pregnancy as well. Of course, I had a child at home, so that was another variable. But I even remember up until the night before I went into labor, I was on the treadmill. I was like, I'm going to walk this kid out, and I did. We can talk about this a little bit more as well. But I've found ways to integrate fitness into my life, even with a full-time job and two children and a house and all these other things. So I think that it's really important to be able to maintain that fitness. especially if it's a part of your vernacular during your pregnancy.
I love that. And I love what you are saying on giving some tips and hacks on how we, because that is something that I'm big on, not only with mom, but also with all my other female clients, is the concept of you don't have to compromise. Like if you decide to be a mom or you become a mom, that doesn't mean that you have to give up some of the things that you enjoy, like working out, like moving. So that is amazing. One thing that I love is your phrase. I ask all my guests to give me a phrase, and I giggle with yours because
Mhm.
Laurie's phrase is, I like to be an optimist. It pisses people off. So we're going to talk a little bit about that phrase and what it means for you to be an optimist.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I think that, we're all put on this earth for a reason. We all make choices professionally, personally. And, because we are making those choices, it's important to maintain that healthy mindset. Especially because, life can get stressful. And there are also a lot of individuals out there who just love being miserable for the sake of being miserable and want to drag down other people. And, I really like to keep that positive outlook. It can be difficult. I am not saying that I am an optimist all of the time because I would be lying. But, whenever I do get into those moments where I'm not feeling great, I'm having a bad day, I like to recenter myself. And sometimes it just takes, taking a walk or folding laundry, sitting in quiet, binge watching a show, to really recenter myself and figure out what I'm going to do moving forward.
I love that. And one of the things that I love about what you said early on the exercise is understanding what is happening with our body, right? Because pregnancy and being a mom is part of the natural process of our body, and our body also change while we are in that phase. So listening to our own body, and I will even add, in addition to listen to our body, be aware that sometimes that conversation with our body can have a little bit of delay, because for the pregnancy, all your muscles start getting a lot more flexible because you need to prepare for birth. So a lot of the things that happen is that we start exercising and get a little excited about how much more we can do, how much farther we can go, and we end passing through our limit threshold and then get injured and hurt. So it is very important what Laurie was saying about not only being aware of how our body's feeling, but also being aware of that your body is a lot more malleable during pregnancy. And therefore, we need to be mindful of that. Let's gonna start talking, Laurie, about how to find time to exercise when we feel that our children are sucking the life out of us. So when we are like, I cannot tell you how many times I'm been with a mom talking about this, and they don't even say anything. You just see their face in complete hopelessness of saying, I know what you're saying, but I cannot think how I'm gonna include and find time to exercise in my life right now.
Right. I think what's most important is setting a goal that's realistic. It's not realistic to work out 7 days a week. It's not good for you to work out 7 days a week, at least in my opinion. So I think it's all about being real with yourself and, looking at what your schedule holds, how many kids you have, how many schools they go to, what kinds of sports and, other activities they're involved in, and really figuring out where you can integrate in a workout, if your children are smaller, if you have babies, if you have toddlers, and it's going to be a nice day outside. Like in Washington D.C. this week, it was 80 degrees. So when my kids were younger and we had those rare warm winter days, I would just throw them in the stroller, take a walk, give them a snack. It was good for them, it was good for me. Of course, that's a little bit different when they're older and out of a stroller, but if you are a morning person, can you work out twice a week in the morning? If you're a night owl, does it make sense to work out 2 or 3 nights a week, after your kids go to bed? What does your weekend look like? Does that involve a walk with a friend? Could that involve, a class if you have to be somewhere else, at any given time? I think it's all about establishing those expectations. I like to laugh with my husband because I have an Apple Watch that likes to yell at me when, and mock me. It says, oh, you crushed your workout ring yesterday and all you need is another 100 move points, to close your third ring. And I'm like, why are you mocking me and making me feel bad? You're a piece of technology. So, there are days that I set my alarm for 6 a.m. and I don't feel like getting up. So I'm going to sleep that extra hour. It's also like it's sort of a mind game, right? We all play those mind games with ourselves, even when, especially when we're pregnant, after pregnancy. Oh, well, we have to work out. Like, my body's changing. I'm doing this. I'm getting older. I'm in my 40s. What am I doing? What does this look like? And I think that, every situation for every person is going to look really different. So if that's a conversation you can have with yourself, great. If that's some situation where you need to talk to a friend or talk to a doctor, to figure out what's that right mix for you, and also to find something you really like. If you don't like running, and I ran for years and I never liked it, and now I don't really do it anymore because why am I going to do it if I don't like it? But I like to mix up, some days I'm walking outside or on a treadmill. Some days I have a Peloton, I'm on the Peloton. Some days I'm doing some weight training. So also keeping it dynamic, mixing it up so it also doesn't get stagnant and boring.
Thank you, Laurie. And I love that because it's us breaking the paradigm of what should look like. And then I think that that is one of the things that hold back a lot of moms because they are comparing themselves with a fake standard of, oh, you should look like this and work out 6 days per week and I spend 90 minutes on the gym. And I will, and then what you are saying is make it work for your lifestyle
Mhm.
and make it work for you in your situation. So if it's in the morning, if it's in the evening, if it's at lunch, and I can relate with that because I work out all my pregnancy. I had a really, really, really rough fourth trimester and I struggled with postpartum depression and anxiety.
Right.
So when I start feeling that I want to work out again, just the thinking of that standard of I need to spend 60, 90 minutes in a gym or in a class was very daunting. And I remember just finding twice per week a Zumba class that I thought, well, I'm from Colombia, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna just dance and have fun. And then I started doing that only twice. It was Tuesday and Thursday. I will just leave, and the Zumba classes are less than an hour, so it was 45 minutes. So total, I will be without my baby for like 70 minutes. And then what happened was I started doing that, and after like 6 or 8 weeks, I start feeling better and I start wanting to do more. And then I start increasing that slowly to the point that now I am working out 5 days per week. And then it's been more than 45 minutes. But I love that we can start normalizing that there is not a right way to do it. That the right way to do it is find what works for you, and then from there start doing it. One of the things that I love to say is, and I would love to hear your part of it, is the 5 minute rule. And that is, there are times, like, I think that we all can agree. I don't think that we are having any mom. And if you are one of those moms, please find me at Unicorn Mama Coach on Instagram or MomFit in Facebook and tell me. But I don't think that I will find any mom that tell me, I work out and I didn't feel better. Right. We always feel better. Like we may not want to work out when we start the workout, but we normally feel better because we release endorphins. So the 5 minute rule is, sometimes I play my mind and say, okay, I know we don't want to do it. We are going to do it for 5 minutes. If at 5 minutes we still don't want to do it, then it's okay for us to stop doing it and give ourselves that permission. And usually, what happens is at 5 minutes, you are starting to feel good and you're like, oh, I don't want to stop. So I love how you are giving us all those tips of using the stroller, using the kids. So now the second thing there is around a cadence, how we can create a cadence that is interesting and motivating. I know that you talk about how important it is to mix workouts, and then again, don't do something that you don't like just because it's the right thing to do or the thing that is going to let you release your baby weight faster. Be very honoring of what you like, because then you're going to have more chances. So how these moms, pregnant moms, moms to be, and new moms can start creating that exercise cadence, that is interesting, and maybe even I would say a sacred space for them.
Absolutely. And, and when you're pregnant, it's a whole different ball game, right? Because when you're early on and, I had morning sickness until about 15, 16 weeks with both of my pregnancies, which was a big shift for me pre-pregnancy because I was used to, working out after work or on the, rare occasion I would work out in the morning, but all day, I just felt horrible. So, I was like, okay, I'm just going to work out for 20 minutes before dinner and then I can hang out and then it'll be okay. So I started very small when I was pregnant, especially as I was still, feeling terribly because I was like, if I set these unmanageable expectations, then I'm going to feel even worse. Like that's the worst part when you're feeling physically sick and then mentally you're like, oh my God, I can't reach these these unattainable goals I set for myself. Now I'm going to feel worse. I think also, when you're pregnant, there's a lot of opportunities and resources to meet, other pregnant moms and continue on a fitness journey through prenatal yoga, through other prenatal. I took a prenatal boot camp class with my second pregnancy. Whereas, with my first one, I took prenatal yoga and I loved it. The second time around, I'm like, I need something different. Like this just isn't working for me anymore. And I met some, great friends that I still, keep in touch with today. And after we had our babies, we were able to hang out because we were all due around, around a similar time. So I think that, if you're also, while you're pregnant, looking at fitness in that way, who can I include as a part of this journey that, maybe can help me in my postpartum journey? Since that's, also a very different experience. And then as you're, when you're a mom, it's all about figuring out what is going to keep you happy, what's going to keep you interested, what's going to be a valuable use of your time. Um, when I'm cycling, I'm very big on looking what's the playlist in this particular class. And my husband laughs at me because he's like, why does it matter? Then like you're ruining the surprise. And I'm like, if it's a bad playlist, then like I'm not going to feel motivated. It's going to be a terrible class. And then I'm going to feel even worse afterwards because I'm going to think it's a total waste of my time rather than saying, oh my God, I know this entire 80s playlist or 90s playlist or hip hop playlist or whatever. And then it keeps me excited and keeps me going the entire time. I think, it's also important that as we get older, understanding, how bodies are changing and what you need to continue to sustain strength, as you age. So I'm in my 40s now, and just from professionals that I've spoken to, strength training is a really important part of that journey. So, figuring out where does the cardio live, where does the strength live, and, how am I going to continue challenging myself? Because it's very easy sometimes when you're, doing weights to be like, oh, I'm just going to use lighter weights today. I'm not really going to, do much. But, I want to be able to maintain my health for the next 40, 50, however many years I'm still around. And then, again, I still enjoy that challenge. And then having that, soreness the day after, 3 days later, it's still sort of gratifying in a, twisted sort of way.
I love that. And you put so much, you pack so much into that answer that I'm gonna try to touch back again and point out. The first one that I love is the advice of find classes of pregnant moms or new moms for two reasons. The first one is it's going to help you to stop comparing yourself. That is, especially if you are one of those perfectionists, There is nothing more frustrating as a big mom with a big belly of trying to do some exercises and see that everybody else is doing it and you are physically not being able to do it. So don't put yourself in that situation. I love the idea of what Laurie's saying of find classes of prenatal classes, and then postnatal, postpartum classes, because you're going to do three things. The first one is you are going to actually feel a little more supported because everybody's in the same boat. Second one, you are going, like Laurie said, create that community that you need. Create a community of moms that are around the same due date that you, that have young babies like you, that are going to be able to say, yeah, this suck, or let me help you here, or it's gonna do that. And then the third one is when they get times where you do not want to work out or things start getting crazy, you are going to have them as an anchor of they are doing it too, they are going through this the same. So it's going to become a different level of accountability partnership, because you're all in the same boat of learning how to figure out to survive with a big belly or with a newborn or with a toddler. So I love that advice, Laurie. And then the other one that I think that is brilliant is the one of understanding and probably here challenging a little bit of the society standard of um, weight, and that is understanding what each of the exercise types help with. And then, like you were saying, with the strength, I'm actually doing a lot of strength right now too, because the reality is everything that we don't use stop working. So as less you use your muscles, as more your body's like, oh, we don't need this muscle density. We are going to just thin them up, and then later on you're going to have issues because they are what supports your skeleton and everything else. But then I love how you are saying to share with moms that, for example, with a straight training, you could be releasing some of that baby weight, you could be releasing some fat, and because you are doing the strength training and building muscle, the number in the scale may not move. And that I want to really take this time to encourage all moms to start ditching the scale. I actually have a movement of divorce the scale, just because what Laurie was saying, strength training can be absolutely, cannot be no, it is absolutely amazing for your longevity, for your muscles, for your energy, for your vitality. And when you do that strength training, it may look like you are not releasing as much as you want to. It's not that you're not releasing, you are releasing, but at the same time you are gaining what you really need in your body, that is that muscle and bone density. So thank you for sharing that. Laurie, what about the concept of incorporating exercise into everyday mothering task and taking away that all or nothing mentality of, oh, if I'm going to work out, it needs to be in a class or it needs to be in a gym. But how these mamas can start thinking out of the box and start incorporating some of the exercise in their daily activities.
Sure, absolutely. And I remember when both my kids were infants, I would just dance around the living room with them. I would turn on music. I was on parental leave, and we would just dance. And I would do squats and wall sits, while I'm holding my baby. And it was a great way because they love the bouncing when they're that little. And I was listening to music. It was very quiet in my house. My spouse was at work. All my friends were working except for those that were also on parental leave. So I just enjoyed the time by myself. And I think that it's very important, even though parental leave can be such a challenging time because your baby's small, whether it's your first kid or your fourth kid, it can feel a little bit isolating. So really just trying to embrace the fact that you have this special time with your child. They're not going to be young forever. I'm emphasizing the point that it is not easy. Like my maternity leaves were not easy, but I also knew that as a full-time working parent, this would be the only, uninterrupted time for a couple of months that I would ever have with my children. So I made the most of it in that way. Even just, going for a walk around the block during the day, Summer is approaching soon, so it'll be darker later. So even just, going for a walk after dinner, taking your kids outside, pulling them in a wagon, pushing them in a stroller, taking weights outside while you're walking, just trying to find some very, low barrier ways. Even before you go to bed, restorative yoga, things that help you sleep, doing some wall sits or legs up the wall, or, some forms of Pilates, A, they promote sleep, and B, it's great for strength, especially for your trunk strength. After you give birth, we're all, trying to strengthen our core, because that's what keeps us upright, and that's what keeps us doing so many things every day. So, Joe, what you were saying about, the standard of going out and working out in a gym, I think that, that the pandemic helped us, sort of gravitate away from that sort of model. There's some people that have gone back to that, which I think is great. I belonged to a gym for many, many years beforehand, and now I have equipment in my house that's helpful. But I think also, like, buying a set of weights and doing weights while you're, making dinner, waiting for something, waiting for water to boil or whatnot. Even, as you said, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, all of that is really helpful. And it does add up, even if you're, doing, push-ups during the day when you're in your office, lifting weights while you're making dinner, doing squats while, your kids are brushing your teeth. All of those, small minutes really, really add up in the end.
And I love that. And one thing that I also want to suggest with the weights, because I love the idea of going on a stroller and do weights. it- you probably will find this anywhere in the world, but in the US, if you can go to like TJ Maxx or Home Goods or any of those, you can find the ones that you can strap and have Velcro to your wrist and your ankles. I actually have 2 pounds ankles and 1 pound in my wrist, and then you can actually just put them on during the day, and just having that extra weight for movement is going to help with that exercise. I love your idea of squatting with the kids and wearing the kids. The one thing when you were talking about wearing the kid and dancing with your kids is also be unapologetically you at advocating for you as a mom and your mom needs. So it is time for us to start transforming the concept of things like gyms and classes, and have um, physical places that are family friendly. Like I have the blessing to have a gym here in my area. It's called Tyrannosaurus Flex. And it's family friendly. Like you will not believe how many times my husband is out of town or is coming late from work. And if a lot of moms at those points are saying like, well, I have to skip workout because I have the baby. If you have a place that support that, then you just bring the baby in a carrier. You will not believe how many times I am being doing my strength cardio or my drum cardio with my baby on the carrier. That actually even better, you are doing even extra exercise because you are doing a 20, 15, 10 pound extra weight as you are carrying them. So I love how it's matter of not do that all or nothing of I can do it perfect or I cannot do it at all, but start swinging in between on how we can get some of those benefits. Laurie, in your opinion, in your experience with all your kids, what are some of the benefits that we as moms and our children gain from us having that exercise cadence and that routine of working out?
Sure. I think that kids feel very comfortable with routine. Kids also, parents are role models, right? So if they see that we're in a routine that's making us happy, that's, we're able to be more present, we're able to give more, excuse me, to our kids, then they see that and they feel more comfortable, and they don't feel, if you're unable to work out, or you have a lot going on at work, or there's just a lot of confluence of things going on and you feel anxious, your kids feel that anxiety whether they're 2 weeks old or whether they're 12 years old. So I think it's all about, making those small adjustments and really, being tuned into your children. My kids are very into sports. So because the weather has been so nice, I've been able to go outside and, kick a soccer ball with them, throw a baseball to them. All of that is fitness. So, on the days that I'm not working out, I'm still working out by, going out and playing with them, which serves a double purpose. Also walking them to school. That's, 3/4 of a mile. So that is also a workout. So I think that there's so many things that we just don't think about, that are dually serving both us as well as our children. And I think that that really makes everyone better for it.
And I love how you are putting it all into the child's perspective. Now let's going to talk a little bit about how exercise and moving around can help our mental health and our emotional health as moms as well. So we know the physical part, we know how it's impacting, but let's gonna also talk about that connection that sometimes we don't make. That is like sometimes very obvious, but we don't talk about it into how much that exercise can also release into helping us with our mental health and our emotional health.
Sure. I think that as moms, we live in our heads 27 hours a day. Like we don't have enough time to live in our heads and, worry about all the things that, we feel like we should have to worry about. I'm a terrible sleeper. I have no problem falling asleep, but a lot of nights I'm up at 3 a.m. worrying about what I have to do the next day, what my kids are doing, like, all the scheduling things. And, even this morning, my alarm went off. I was like, I don't really want to work out, but you know what? Like, I know I'm going to have a better day if I do. So let me just go work out for a half an hour. And afterwards, I was like, I'm so glad that I did. I think that, from a chemical perspective, as you mentioned, when you exercise, you release endorphins. And, even if you're not thinking about it, that exercise is going to make you feel better. It's going to make you feel a little bit more awake. You might not need that extra cup of coffee. I think that regardless of the time of day you're working out, whether it's when you wake up, midday, before you go to sleep, you're able to just remove yourself, don't look at your phone. And I know that that's really, really hard to do, but when I'm on my spin bike, like I don't look at my phone. When I go walk outside, like I'm listening to music, but I'm not typing on my phone. I think that we're so tied to technology, and that technology really starts to infiltrate, our emotional and mental health. That, how can we just find, even if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever we have, to disconnect and to sort of lose ourselves in what we're doing, whether that's a yoga class, a meditation, a walk, a spin class, a weight workout. Once we're on the other end, we've had some good music, we feel really good. It's like, okay, it's a really, really nice reset, from all different perspectives.
And I love that because it's such a self-care practice, right? Like I move personally from, like I was telling you, twice per week. Then now I'm doing it Monday to Thursday and Saturday. And my husband knows that he come from work, he keep the keto, and then I go. And then at the beginning, and there's something else that I want to talk with you and your expertise and your advice is, at the beginning I was kind of feeling guilty because I started doing one class and then I really enjoy it. And I was like, oh, I want to do two classes. So instead of being 1 hour, it's going to be 2 hours or, out. And I start feeling guilty. I was like, well, I should be back with my family, with my baby. And then, but I was like, no, but I'm feeling really good. And then I start actually putting it as block, as instead of working out or exercise, it was more like, this is my me time. This is the time that I'm using to balance myself, to release stress, overwhelming. So, how moms can also balance that part of allowing themselves to be self-full and put themselves first, and balance that probably little voice that tend to make them feel a little guilty because they are taking time to work out, that uh, implies sometimes getting away from their babies and their families.
Sure. And I think, again, this is really a battle that we have with ourselves. It's funny. I've heard, and I've been guilty of this also. Well, I'm going to go out and my spouse is going to babysit, and it's like, well, my spouse isn't babysitting because my spouse is a parent. Just because this child came out of my body doesn't mean that like I'm the default parent 150% of the time. So I think that we have to set these realistic expectations for ourselves that like we can't give ourselves to other people all of the time because then the tank is completely empty for us. We have to be able to rest. We have to be able to replenish. We have to be able to revitalize ourselves. And that's going to look different for every single person. But when you find something that, whether it's fitness, whether it's something else that really gives you that refresh, we are better parents for it because we're able to take care of ourselves. And when we feel good, we're able to give more of ourselves to our children. And I've experienced that too, especially when my kids were babies. Oh, well, I don't want to be away from my baby for that long. Or, oh, should I feel bad that my spouse is with my children all the time? Or, once there was a second child in the mix, oh, well, that's a lot for him. I'm like, I've taken care of two kids by myself before. Like, no, it's fine. And you have to just keep talking to yourself about it. And, if you have a close group of girlfriends that you feel comfortable, having these conversations with, having that sort of group agreement is helpful. And then, if you're really struggling, I know a lot of people that take advantage of mental health services to really be able to train their minds that self-care is important. And without it, like, you can easily crumble under pressure.
And I agree with that. And I love the topic that you just touched. And we are going to be talking a little bit more about that. And that is being apologetically about saying that. And then we're going to also talk about tips for single parents. But if you have your spouse in the house, your spouse is not babysitting, your spouse is not helping, your spouse is doing their job as a parent. And that is part of one of the things that I will encourage all of you to do is make some of those clear expectations and discuss them with your partner. Say, hey, this is what I need from me. This is especially difficult for moms because we are used to it to put everybody's need, and we learn from grandmas and great grandmas that everybody else needs came first, everybody else had a priority. But it is time for you to for example, what I was telling you is sitting down and say, hey, I will really want to have time to go and do this class, have time to go and do this, so let's gonna schedule our time together. One of the things that I do with my husband is we have a share calendar, and we
Mhm.
put things there. And then, for example, I have a girls' night with you Friday. I make a calendar invite and I invite him. So he just know that that day I am not available to be with Elliot, and then he will be with Elliot by himself. So I think that is a big part of claiming that power back, of feeling that it's time for us to break that paradigm of we are the default parent all the time, and then our spouse is actually just babysitting or helping with the kid. And then I will be very clear, and I want to hear your feedback too, is this apply for both working outside the house moms and staying home moms? Because that is the other one that I hear all the time, like, well, but I just stay home and my husband work all day. uh you are also working all day. Like, I will not, like, I will tell you, I have it all. I was a corporate executive for companies like Goodyear and Pepsi. Now I have my own business, and I will not trade being working in my business or being in corporate for being a full-time stay-home mom with all the things that they need to do and happen. So even if you are a stay-home mom and your work is in the house, that doesn't mean that your partner don't need to do their part. um, so I want to hear a little bit more of that, and then it's gonna just brainstorm a little bit on what happened with moms that don't have that partner. how else they can find that support to fill their tank. I love how you use the term of you need to fill your tank, and exercise is one of those easy ways to fill your tank.
Sure. I think, and I know, I have a number of friends that either were or still are stay-at-home parents, and I think that that's a whole other ball game. There's been a lot of tension over the years between full-time working parents and stay-at-home moms, and what does that dynamic look like? And well, she's doing this and she's doing this. There's pros and cons to both, and everyone makes choices and has different reasons for choosing to work out of the home, or choosing to be a stay-at-home parent. And when you're a stay-at-home parent, and I've never been one, but just seeing some of my friends who are, you feel like you're responsible for all the cleaning, all the laundry, all the meal making, the lunch making, the kid pickups, the play groups, the classes, like the scheduling, all of those things. That in of itself is very, very stressful, because you're putting all of these pressures on yourself, and you feel like you have to be perfect. There can't be one toy out of place. That's also not healthy. So, even if you do have time during the workday, or during the business day when your spouse isn't home, or, when your child is in preschool, to work out, or to do other things for yourself, like, I think it's also, we have to give ourselves some grace, right? When we're a working parent, it's, oh, well, am I getting up at 5 in the morning to work out? Like, am I working out after my baby goes to bed? Like, I'm so tired. What do I do? Even getting out during lunch to take that walk around the block can make a huge difference. In terms of single parents, and I know that there's many, many different situations, for that, and different reasons and whatnot. But whether there's a family member in the area, a babysitter, a mother's helper, babysitters or nannies and things like that, like, the cost does tend to add up. So, even if you're comfortable having, a middle school, or maybe even a freshman in high school come over, after work for a couple of hours, so you can work out, make dinner, get some other things done, even just being in the house while there's perhaps a younger non-babysitting age child there, that can also, make a difference, and not put as much of a pinch in your pocketbook.
I love that. And that touch into also the part of us learning to feel comfortable asking for help, because that is something I was actually talking with a client yesterday. And she's actually an older mom, but she is going into cancer treatment. And
Mhm.
she was asking me about, because part of the support that I do with health and nutrition, there is a smoothie that we have that is full of veggies and all that. And she was very concerned about how much time she will have into doing that when she had all these other things, when the cancer treatment is going to feel. And I told her, I said, like, how many times you hear people asking you what I can do, how can I help? And then the reality is, we as moms, we as females say, like, oh, thank you, I'm fine. So my answer for her was like, have the recipe ready, and as soon as they ask you, you say, hey, you know what? I really enjoyed this smoothie, and I'm concerned that I'm not going to have time to do it when I'm in cancer treatment. If I buy all the ingredients, if you can make it for me, that would be fantastic. And we were just laughing, saying she probably will have a smoothie every day for as long as she had the treatment. But the same with single moms is, when friends are talking with you, when family members are talking with you and say, hey, how can I help? Please
Yeah.
let me know if you need anything. Trust that people don't say that without meaning it. The problem, and that is something that I work with my moms in my course of teaching them how to do it, but the problem is, people want to help, but people don't know how to help.
Yeah.
So that's why they just, uh, unfairly, because I always tell that my mama's support system, don't ask how you want to help, just pick something and help.
Yeah.
But if you are not having that support from a coach like me to teach them that, then be clear. When people ask you, hey, is there anything that I can do to help? You know what? Yes, I will really like to have a couple of hours to do a Zumba class or to do a walk. It would be nice if you can come and, I don't know, put a movie for the kid, for the toddler, for my baby, and then give me that. 99% of the people that are willing to offer you help and don't know how to help are going to be happy to know that they can help you. So I love that, Laurie. And with that being said, what do you think that is being one of the biggest misconceptions about exercising and working out as a mom?
I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that you have to have these intense workouts every single day. And if you don't, you're not going to look like the mom right next to you. Well, you know what? You're not going to look like the mom right next to you anyway. We put so much pressure on ourselves in terms of, well, I want to look like that, or why does she look like that and I don't? We all have very different bodies. We all have very different compositions. I have an athletic body. I'm never going to have thin legs, and that's just something that I've become comfortable with. So it's, I have to look very deep inside myself and be very comfortable, with who I am and what my body looks like, to determine, you know this is what I feel like I can do in the grand scheme of being a working parent, and wanting to maintain fitness, and needing to be present for my children, and needing to get things from here to there, and making sure everything gets done at the end of the day. That I can't look at someone that might have a little bit more time, than I do, or perhaps someone that has, a childcare provider in the house that makes lunches and does laundry and all of those things. Like, that's just not the choices that we've made. So, I think that we have to stop comparing ourselves to other people. And it's much easier said than done. Like, I'm not here to preach that like I figured it all out and there's this magic bullet, but what I'm saying is, over the past almost 10 years of being a parent, I've had to become very real with myself about what I can be and what I'm never going to be. And then, how I can't push myself to that breaking point. So, what does that sort of manageability of all of those things look like? And also, what do I enjoy? This is going, beyond, the scope of fitness, but we all talk about as we get older, having less time and having much closer friendships. So, it's very similar in the way of fitness. Like, we don't have time to run marathons, do all of these things. We have to figure out what we really enjoy and just pursue it, and just push out all of the noise. And that's the hardest thing, is just pushing out all the noise and keeping your eye on your objectives, and keeping your eye on what your specific goals are.
I love that. And I love how you are being an advocate for not comparing yourself, for honoring who you truly are, and then that part of canceling the noise and being willing to say, this is what I want to do, and be willing to ask for the support around of who can help me to achieve this. And that's why I always say about having your support system, having people like Laurie, like me, as part of your support system, as part of the people that have your back. Because the reality is, motherhood is can be daunting and can be overwhelming. So sometimes we are tired, overwhelmed. We don't see some of these simple things as easy as somebody else that had our back can see and point out in the right direction. Laurie, thank you so much for being here with us today. If you can share with us one last thing, if you think like, what's one thing that you want all these moms to be and new moms know about, and then also share how they can connect with you if they want to learn a little bit more about you.
Sure, absolutely. I think wherever you are in the motherhood journey, or, in your pregnancy journey, just to truly grasp on, what your motherhood journey will look like, what you want your kids to be. We all want our kids to be good people. And therefore, we have to set ourselves as those role models, as being, healthy, happy people, and, bringing in the necessary supports and doing the necessary things that we need to do to get to whatever that happy, healthy person looks like. I can be found on Instagram at Elevate Marketing Strategy. I'm happy to have direct message conversations, interact, share more about my motherhood, my working motherhood journey. I'm also on LinkedIn at Laurie Ehrlich. And it's been, Joe, it's been a pleasure being here today and sharing more about, my motherhood journey and my fitness journey. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Laurie. And this show can also be heard on the Radio Spanglish Network. Please check out spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and leave it.